Okay, hi everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to another virtual user group. Before we get started, we have our usual agenda items. We'll go through these pretty quickly, especially if we have some repeat visitors to our virtual events. But real quick from the Elastic side, we'll do quick intros. So my name is Olivia. I am a DevRel program manager. I'm also joined by Justin.
Hey everybody, Justin Castillo here, Senior Developer Advocate at Elastic.
I'll run through some of our upcoming events. Of course, we have our meetup raffle. I'll share some resources from our DevRel team and then how to get involved in meetups if you're interested. And then we'll turn it over to Enrique, who's going to present on ESQL. At the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post those in the chat. If it's something that Justin or myself can answer, we'll have our eye on the chat. But at the end of Enrique's presentation, we'll spend some time going through any questions. Upcoming meetups in US, Latin America, and Canada. This is just what's scheduled out about a month and a half from now. We're constantly planning more events. We also, of course, have events elsewhere. We are global, so I will post a link to our meetup chapter, and you can take a look at any events happening in your neighborhood. Of course, we have our meetup raffle. We'll be raffling off some Elastic swag to one lucky winner after this event. So I will post this URL directly in the chat, but feel free to enter it if you're interested. For any Elastic related questions, our DevRel team, we're here to help. We have our community YouTube channel. This is where this video will live once we finish wrapping up the live stream today. We, of course, have other meetup recordings, solution-focused videos, beginners content. So definitely subscribe and take a look if you're interested. For any questions that you have, I highly recommend Discuss. This is our forum where either you can ask questions, you can answer questions, and then our Slack community workspace. This is another great resource to stay up to date in the latest of what's going on with Elastic. We recently released 8.15 yesterday, of course, and then you can also ask questions in the Slack workspace as well. Okay, what now? So if you're interested in presenting, we want to hear from you. Enrique's on the Elastic team, but we love hearing from the community as well. So if you have a use case you want to share, definitely let us know. Reach out to meetups@elastic.co. We are interested in hearing from you, whether that's a virtual meetup like this one or in person at one of our user group chapters around the globe. And then again, you can take a look at where those chapters are located on our meetup dashboard. I will post this link in the chat here shortly. And then now I will turn it over to Enrique. Hey, Enrique.
Okay, let me share my screen now. Okay.
There we go. Perfect. All yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Olivia and Justin. Yeah, so I'm thrilled to be back again for a meetup. I really enjoyed this time. And I try to prepare a lot for coming here to make sure that the demos work. Of course, there's always the gremlins that ruin everything. But so today we're going to talk about ESQL, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have already heard about ESQL. Maybe you're new to the language, but if you're a data analyst and you use query languages, this the content of this meetup will be very relevant to you, and hopefully will make you very excited about this language. And also, if you're an Elastic Stack user and you have been using other languages like KQL, Lucene, DSL, the native SQL, and so on, this should probably again be exciting and welcome news, because we're going to fix a lot of the issues that analysts don't like to see when they work with data. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, make sure you join your communities, and that you join us for to share your use cases. We love to hear from you, both inside and outside Elastic. So be part of it. Contributors, we reward them with prizes of different sorts, and then we have tons of training. And I'm part of the training team, actually. I am one of the trainers and curriculum developers that work on giving you content that is up to date, even though it's hard to keep up because, yesterday it was 8.14. Today is the meetup, and now we're 8.15. And last night this morning I had to check whether the demos would still work. Because things happen when you upgrade from minor to minor, like in this case. So here's the agenda. So I'm going to take you through a problem of just some use case. Let's work out a problem in Kibana, which is where we want to stay as a data analyst. And then I'm going to show you the current way, which I'm hoping is the old way, or will soon be the old way. And that involves a lot of context switching and coding and other challenges. And we have been criticized for that. I will admit it hasn't been a pretty story, even though the tools are powerful and elegant and they do what they need to. A lot of people say, well, it takes just too many hops to do something simple. So after we experience that one last time, hopefully, then I'll talk to you about how ESQL, not to be confused with other languages that almost sound the same, provides a solution that that we have been longing for. And then I'll give you some some references on next steps, and we'll have time for some Q&A. But you can always put the questions in the chat. Justin is always fielding them, and Olivia, and then at the end I will or maybe they'll refer a question for me in real time. I will try to keep up with the chat, but sometimes I don't do as good a job. But someone will be looking at them, and we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. This is a new language. I don't claim to be the ultimate expert, especially because they keep updating it. But if I cannot find an answer, then we'll find one, and there will be a YouTube video later, so you can put that as a comment. What happened to my question, and then I'll find you an answer and put it in the YouTube comments. All right, so let's solve a problem. So here's the problem, and I'm just going to pose the problem. Most of this is going to be on a demo, but I just want to frame the problem. So we have one of the sample data sets that come with Kibana, which are really useful to have, because then we don't have to load anything. And also you can try this at home. Okay, so this is not one of those shows where we say don't try this at home. In this case, please try this at home. Okay, so we have the following problem. We have the ticket price for each flight. The average ticket flight, which is how much people paid on the average for that flight to get on that. We also have the distance in miles, and the problem is to find the price per mile. Okay, just the price per mile for that flight. We have the average price, and we want to just divide it by the miles. So it's a very simple problem, right? So let's see how we do with solving it. Okay, and then I'll go back to the slides, and then we'll see how we did. So let me take you to the console. So this is, by the way, this environment is the demo environment, and this is available to everybody, and it's always up to date, and that was my fear because they updated it last night. So you can always come here and click on everything, and if you break it, don't worry about it. Someone will fix it. It's meant for the world to use. Okay. So I'm going to show you how we would do this without ESQL, and then you will be the judge of whether this was a good experience or not. All the tools are there, as I mentioned, but we'll see. So let's see. We're in Discover, which is where the analyst would work in Discover or visualizing, typically going back and forth. And we do have a language here that is KQL, so you can write your query here. However, even though we have, and you can even build a nice little table with the carrier. We have the carrier, we have the distance in miles, and we have the average ticket price. So even though we have everything we need, I cannot put a formula in here to create the new field. Okay, so I need the average ticket price to be a field so that I can query on it, sort on it, aggregate on it. But I don't have the field. It was not ingested. No one figured that it would be needed. So basically, I don't have it as an analyst. So what are my options? Well, my option could be to tell someone, can you please just sorry about that. Can you create the field somehow? And we can do that with an ingest pipeline. So we could try to do that. We could say, hey, can I first, this is like the latest demo cluster. So we're on 8.15. Okay. So I'm gonna do a demo on something that just came out. That takes bravery. All right, so we could say, well, someone could ingest the data and put it as a default pipeline so that whenever we get new flights, we calculate the average ticket price. It seems to be, well, first of all, it is an easy calculation, but not done inside a put request, inside a JSON body, inside painless, and then I need to understand painless context. This is the ingest context, which has the syntax with CTX dot to even be able to create a field and have access to existing fields. So it's already not fun or easy because now I have to write code in a language that most people don't know or care about. Okay, but let's say that you climb that learning curve. You ask somebody and they told you, well, this is what you need to do. So you come here and you say, well, I'm going to start creating the pipeline. So let's create the pipeline. And then you're not going to be allowed to do things like these in other people's clusters, especially your production cluster at your company. You will probably be locked out from doing anything like that. Okay? It's not gonna happen. So this is out. Even if you were willing to do the programming. And by the way, the programming also needs some checkings, because if the distance in miles is 0, then this is going to be division by 0. So you need to test and develop. But even if you did that, a sane admin will not even let you do that. So then you ask, okay, so well, I understand that we could create a runtime field, and I could do it from Discover. So you go back to Discover, and then you say, well, where's my add field button? And the thing is, it's not going to be something that you're allowed to do, because now you would be changing the data view for this data set, and that is not something that analysts typically are allowed to do. Even though you need the new field, and it might be an exploration that is needed just for, just to see what it looks like, and then doing some sorting and some visualization, and then, okay, maybe put it on a dashboard, and then you're done with it. It might not even be something you want to keep permanently. Okay. So you want to explore your data by adding and removing fields, and you can't. Okay. If you try to go to the data view, which is where normally that functionality is available, it says, "What do you mean by data view?" Okay, and I'm pretty sure I know that there's such thing as a data view screen in Kibana, but as a demo user, I'm not allowed to use it. I mean, it's not available to me. So I could go to another cluster. Okay, where maybe I can find some more friendly, some additional friendliness. So this is another cluster that I'm using, where I have not been locked out of the add field function. Normally I would be. In fact, if I were the admin, this would not be here. So this is more for the person that is allowed to do that, because you're about to update the data view that links Kibana to the data source. Okay, so you could say, well, okay, so whoever has rights to do that, can you please do this? So you would tell them, please, I need a field. So we would say, we would give them the name of what we want. We want something like called price per mile, and it is of type double, okay? And they have to know what they're doing because now they're back to programming in Painless, right? So here, they would say, okay, so what do you want us to do? So you would show them your formula from the pipeline, right? It's a CTX dot price per mile equals this division. And no, it doesn't work like that because you're not in the ingest context anymore. Now you're in the runtime field context, and the syntax for Painless, for some unknown reason, I've always wondered why, but there's nothing I can do about it. To access fields at runtime, you need to use the doc values map. So you need to say doc, and then the formula is something like this. You find the field, and the one we want is called average. By the way, and the autocomplete is not always here. I think it was average ticket price. I hope I don't mess it up by forgetting. Now, this will give you access to the object, but you want the value. This is what trips a lot of people in this context. That doesn't, just getting to the field name does not get you to the value that's in it. Okay, once you find out from reading the documentation on Painless, I keep saying the word Painless. What does that even mean to an analyst, right? Well, you need to write code in Painless. So somebody must have, educated, in this case, me. And then that is what I want. And then it doesn't work. There's a script error. I added the semicolon. And then it says it's not a statement. The result is not used from the division operator. So then from my other experience in Painless, I could say, oh, this must be X. I need to return it. And the answer is not quite. It doesn't really work like that. If you're doing runtime field binding, meaning binding a calculation with a runtime field, you need to use emit. So there's a lot of background. Imagine this. You're a Kibana analyst, right? In fact, you could be a certified Kibana analyst. And here you are, or someone, you're requested, trying to write Painless code and learning about Painless contexts, which are different depending on what's going on. So this is the one for runtime fields. And finding out how to extract a value from every document, and then how to bind it to the field we're trying to create, which is this price per mile. Okay. The one bright light in doing this is that it's got a nice preview that is linked to the index. In this case, Kibana sample data flights, and it will tell you if it even works. So this previous screen is like worth a lot, okay? Because then you can navigate to the next document, and it says, yeah, you're doing good, and then doing good. So it seems to be until you get something like this, and you say, well, what's going on here? Well, this is what would happen if your distance in miles is 0. So you should probably handle that even if it's a runtime field. It still needs to be calculated. So here you would say, well, I think I need an if statement, and then you write, you venture into the world of, and then you say something like distance miles would have to be at least 0, yeah, for this to even work. And then you do things like that. So a lot of programming already for something very simple to do. And it says, okay, in this case, the preview is telling you, well, if the value is not greater than 0, then a value will not be set. And that might be the semantics you want. So you say, yeah, that's good. Just leave it null. There will be flights that don't have an average ticket price because the distance is 0 for whatever reason. So now you can save this field. It's a valid field, okay? And what's cool about it is that now it is going to show up here as a field. Runtime fields are fields in their own right. They work in, they've been added to the data view, so they will work in Kibana and everywhere else. You can visualize on them, aggregate on them, sort on them, and so on and so on. So it is a valid field, okay? But it took a lot of context switching and hopping and asking somebody to write code, or you had to learn painless. But that is actually not the end of it. Let's say you did do that and you wrote the code, or somebody wrote the code, and then somebody in their infinite wisdom decides to upgrade the cluster. Okay. So then an analyst, an unsuspecting analyst, after the cluster has been upgraded to whatever version, comes back to this screen. They do their work in Discover. They just basically load a data view, and they do their visualizations and put them in dashboards. So that's what they do for a living, right? So then they come one day after the cluster has been upgraded, and they find, let's see, what do they find? They find this, okay? So this is an actually real example of an upgrade that I did on my cloud instance, breaking a runtime field that I have been having here forever. And this one says something like, this is no longer how you do this code. Okay, you need to use this. So if I'm an analyst in Kibana and I could care less about painless programming, all I know is that the runtime field or something broke my view, and now I cannot do my work. So you may think that your runtime field is working fine and you tested it, and then you left it in the data view and everybody's happy until they upgrade, and then boom, it's broken, and for no particularly good reason, other than now the code is obsolete, and Elastic's not going to upgrade your code or maintain it or support it. Okay, that's another problem with writing code. Once you step into the fun world of coding, you are on your own. You have to manage it, test it, configuration, control it, source control it, all of that. It's your code, it's not our code. We will upgrade the stack, and we may change the version of Java that's underneath the painless scripting, and we're not going to apologize too much for that. So yes, runtime fields can be very problematic. It's not just the hopping, the programming, the context switching, hopping from here to there. It is also that one day in the near or long distant future, things may not work for someone who is innocent. They don't have anything to do with this field. They don't even need it. But now the data view is broken. So let me just summarize what the old ways did for us. Oh, by the way, there is yet another thing you could do, and that's to say, well, forget about Kibana. I just want to solve the problem. So you could do that. I mean, I wrote a little bit of code. So more. I have too many consoles, I will admit. So somebody might say, well, you know what? You might hire like a new developer, and they're all excited about writing code, and they say, you know what? I want to learn about this painless thing, and then they know DSL, so they say, I can solve your problem. I can solve all your data problems in DSL. Okay, so they say, all we need to do is do a runtime mapping, and with a runtime mapping, we can on the fly within the scope of the search. We can add the field you're looking for, price per mile, no problem. And then we can use it as any field. So we can do a sort, we can do a sort, and then we can do an aggregation. And then, you as a Kibana analyst would say, yes, but how do I do this in Kibana? And the answer is, oh, well, that's different. So that probably the developer will tell you, let me just write you like a web app for your your use case, and that doesn't make any sense at all. So now you cannot run this code from the Discover screen in Kibana, even though now even if you get past all the JSON and all this like nonsense for putting a little formula in there, even if you were to get you got past that, this does not fit into Kibana in any meaningful way. So you're out of luck. You would need like an external client to do that. So that is where we are right now. So let me go back to the slides and just summarize what we have seen. And that's why people said, you guys, yes, we can do what we need, but it takes so many things, so many steps to do something very simple like adding just one field so that I can continue my data exploration. So you need you could use an ingest pipeline. You can do a runtime field. You can do a fully scripted solution in Painless and have somebody write you a new client. They all require working outside Discover, which is where the analyst home is, developer tools, and then in some cases you can't even develop your own pipeline. You can't really add the runtime field because you don't have access to the data view. And so, yeah, there are solutions. There's no question. But here I put all the, all the issues, and then at the end, it's like a Shark Tank. There has to be a better way, and there is a better way, and that's why we're here. Okay, so let's go back to let's solve the problem, but this time let's come in and enter ESQL. So let me go back all the way back to the demo environment. This one. So we're back in the demo environment where we couldn't do anything, right? This is somebody else's environment. No one's gonna give me access to the data view. I cannot even create a pipeline. So I'm out of luck, and out of luck, unless I come here and then I say, hey, why don't we just do this in ESQL? And in ESQL, I can do all the retrieving, processing, including extracting, parsing, calculation, enrichment, and aggregating, and then even visualizing without leaving home. This is like, now I'm gonna be working in Discover as working from home. So you can start by just saying, this is very easy to use. You just say from. Well, you're gonna type it correctly. By the way, they changed it from forcing me to use uppercase, which would not be my preference, but I'm not going to fight with them on that. So you can say from Kibana Dataflies and just run that, okay? And it'll tell you. Now this is a very expensive query because I didn't use any filtering, but they came back soon enough. It said something like, I'm going to pull 1,000 documents because you didn't put a limit. That you could say, well, just give me that, give me 5 documents. So, give me 5 documents. So there they are. There's my 5 documents. And then you can even say, instead of using this left-hand side menu to create your little Discover table, you can use keep to say, to do it like an SQL, we used to call them project in that relational database. So I can say, I want the carrier, I want the flight number. I'm kind of striking out. I want the flight number, and then I want the average ticket price, and I want the distance in miles, and then you can run it. So that's for five of them, and then it creates this table that you can put in a dashboard by simply saving the. Now I'm not allowed to save the search in the demo environment, but if you had your own cluster, you would just save it, and now you had a data table powered by ESQL, and then you can do things like, okay, now I want to sort by average ticket price in descending order. So if you compare this syntax to the DSL syntax that I showed you a minute ago, this is like, okay, now we're talking about what analysts are, used to doing without all the JSON programming and all those JSON clauses. This is what, this is just a language, a query language that is, it's a stream of commands. You have source commands like from, and this one creates a table, and then the rest are processing commands that take as input a table and produce another table, and then you can use that, to chain. So what do I do with this table? Well, apply this command, and what do I do with that table? Well, apply another command. So it's once you create the initial table, then you just do a chain of processing, sorting, projecting, aggregating, and so on and so on. Now, watch the semantics of limit, because this is in this case you said give me 5 rows and then sort them, which is different from sort them, and then give me the top 5 of that sort, right? That's different. So this is like sort the entire data set and then give me the top 5. So watch where you put the limit. Okay. All right, but we're not really here to let's leave the limit at the end. Doesn't matter. I'm just gonna take it away. What we're here to do is to solve the problem of the runtime field that we had all sorts of problems on doing, with the tools we had with the old ways. All right. So now all I have to do is say evaluate the new field, which I'm going to keep calling price per mile. And here I can just use a formula, and this would be average ticket price. The autocomplete is kind of flaky. Sometimes it discovers the field, sometimes it does not. Okay. And now I have my average ticket price calculated with an eval command as part of the stream. And now I have it is added to the keep. So now I have everything I had before, and I have the average ticket price. And then from here on down, this is actually a field in its own right. So I can just say, I want to sort on price per mile in descending order. I want to see what's my most expensive flight. Okay. And notice that in this case, I get little dashes, which means that the calculation ended up not working or doing something weird. So it ended up giving me a null. And that's because of the division by 0. So some flights do have a distance in miles of 0, which you can see right here. So, say, well, I wish I could just don't I need an if statement? Well, in ESQL, we call them where. And all you have to say is, just don't pull up any flights that have a distance that is negative. I mean, that is 0, or I hope there are no negative ones. And that's all you have to do. You just add a where clause within the stream of commands. Everything is within the stream of commands. And there you are. So this is your most expensive flight. And then if you want to know what are the cheapest ones, then you can say, let's go ascending order, descending order. So no more JSON syntax, no more DSL, and no more limitations with KQL and Lucene. No more pretending that we have an SQL native version, which doesn't do much. Now we have our own language called Elasticsearch bar query language that looks like that. Okay, so this is an elegant language, very powerful. And then I can keep on working. I can keep on doing things like aggregations. Like I can do other kinds of I can do metrics. Like for example, let's say I want to find out what is the average price per mile. Yeah, so I'm going to use my average aggregation function on the price per mile. All I have to do is that. And if you've done DSL programming, you know that it doesn't look anything like this. In fact, that the biggest hurdle in this certification, the engineering certification, is trying to figure out where to insert things in JSON. Well, that never made any sense to anyone, but because it was really hard. DSL is of course very powerful, but as a language, it's not meant for humans. It's probably meant for very, very bright humans, or just for computers. And then you might say, yeah, but I want to, I want to group it. Well, that's not a problem. You want to, when you want to know the average price per mile by carrier, and the stats command that uses the aggregation functions can also do the grouping. So I would say that we did a lot of work that would have taken a lot of hops from here to outside. Dev tools and adding the field. So I'm pretty happy with this. I'm really excited about this. And you can keep adding metrics, and you can name them. For example, you can name this one as let me call this one average PPM. Okay, and then I can just say, and then give me let's say median PPM. So the autocomplete is screaming at me to do the median. Boom, that's all I need to do to add more metrics. Okay. Now I could compare them. In fact, I can now engage the visualization engine that is still in Discover, right? I'm still inside Discover. And here I could say, well, I want to compare the carriers by their average PPM or the median or whatever. Now, there is still a glitch in here that I'll show you in a minute. But what you can do without leaving Discover is you can edit your visualization. And you can say, you know what, for the vertical axis, I want the PPM, the average PPM. I'm going to go for the median. So you can customize it. Okay, so there they are. And then, you know, some people will say, well, if you're comparing things, use a horizontal bar chart. So then you can apply and close it. You can save it to your visualization library. You can add it dashboards and so on and so on. All right. So the idea is to stay home when you're doing your data explorations, analysis, processing, and so on and so on. Now, let's do a couple of things that are a little bit more advanced with our price per mile. Let's see how it trends. You know, what is the price per mile distribution? You know, like how many flights are really cheap, how many flights are really expensive, and I want to see that as a density curve. Can I, or at least a histogram? Can I do that? And the answer is yes. That's actually quite easy, if I remember the syntax. So what I want here is to compare, you know, the y-axis will be the number of flights, and I'm going to use just a count. And I'm just going to use a count star, okay? And I want to do this, but in this case, I want to create a histogram, so I'm going to use the bucket function. So the syntax of this bucket function changed for the better. Okay, so this is one that I really like. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go for the price per mile, and I'm going to create a histogram with an increment of 0.1. Okay, so this is basically, you know, this hard to get runtime field or new column. Now I'm using it to base it in an aggregation and do a histogram, you know, within the same command. I did not need to ask for any favors or anything. I just, you know, do my job. So here we are. Now this is where there is a glitch that they have not fixed. I'm not sure why, but this doesn't mean anything, and that's because it's incorrectly defined. First of all, what I want to do before I do that, I want to name this so that you have a label on the x-axis to be the price per mile. So you can, you know, you can give a name to any function in an eval or a stats. So I'm going to keep that, run it, and then I'm going to come here and edit, because the y-axis and the basically both of the axes are kind of like get mixed up as being the y-axis. What I really wanted is the ranges of price per mile to be the x-axis, and that's a very easy fix. Okay, so now I get like my little density curve. This tells me that you know, this is the price per mile, right? So there are tons of cheap flights. There are there are tons of cheap flights, and that the price kind of like the price per mile follows this trend. You know, as the flights get more more expensive. So I do have, like, most of my flights are in this range, where the price per mile is very is very reasonable, and then I get to a price per mile, you know, like $30 per mile in a $1,000 flight. Is like, what? But then I don't have that many of them, right? So you can do that, and I created this histogram to to spot a trend by not leaving Discover, using everything as a, you know, in a chain of commands, And I can keep on going and going, and I can, I can pivot. I can say, well, okay, save this one, and let's start again, and let's go in a totally different direction. For example, what I would like to do is I'm going to ask a totally crazy question. This will probably be my last example, yeah, to give you a little bit of time for questions. So I'm going to ask a question that is very, very unusual, probably. But an analyst might ask it, what is the effect of the elevation of the destination airport on the price per mile? Okay. Well, first of all, we don't even have the elevation in the flight data. Okay. Yeah, well, that could be a problem, except that it's not, because I have a data set that came from the Department of Transportation that gives me information about all airports in the US. And that one has things like the elevation and who owns the airport and the distance to the, the city, the closest city. So I have that little data set, but it's not my flights data set. It's another data set called US airports or something. So what I would like to do is enrich my data with information from that data set. So in the old days, and I'm not going to show you how to do that, you would have to do that using a pipeline and enrich, or using a runtime fields, which can also use the enrich policies. Well, guess what? We can do that in ESQL as well. So I am going to flip to this one. And the reason for that is because I'm not going to be allowed to create an enrich policy in the demo environment. Excuse me, sorry for that. But that's not the same thing as a context switch. That enrichment policy, that's the only way we have right now. I think they're going to add an actual lookup command, but it's not available yet. But we can piggyback on the enrichment policies we use for ingest pipelines and runtime fields. So if you have now you do need a friend to build you the ingest policy and run it. And it looks something like this. Let me see if I have it. Yeah, it's like this. I have an index called US airports. So right now there's no solution for this. Somebody does have to do this. On the UI, there's a UI for that in Kibana, but so I have this data and I have elevation and airports. It's only for the US. So then I would run this policy, execute it, and then so now that's in the background. Now I can come here. I can switch over to ESQL. Okay. And then I can do things like these. I can say, okay, well, let me just continue from where I left off. First of all, I am looking for flights. Oh, by the way, this is an older cluster where it's not forcing me into the uppercase. So now I'm looking for the uppercase. Okay, but I still want the distance in miles to be greater than 0. Now I'm going to do an enrich. However, I only have data for US airports. So I'm going to add either an and, or I could do another where, and I could say for the destination airport ID. No, I don't want the airport ID. I want the destination country to be. It has to be the US because I only have elevation data for them. You can test at any time as you go along. So we have that. And then what I'm going to do is let's test out the enrichment. Okay, so I'm going to say enrich. And it says, okay, now notice that ESQL reached into Elasticsearch or Kibana, and then Elasticsearch, and said, is there such a thing as are there any enrich policies back there that I could put in the autocomplete? Yes, we have one, and that is the airport lookup. And then on what field do I want to do the match with that lookup table? Well, I'm looking for the elevation of the destination airport, okay? And then what do I want to bring from there? I want the elevation. So this is really cool because I don't have to go anywhere else. It's telling me, yeah, there is an enrichment policy, and it pulled up the entire definition and it's helping me out big time. And enriching my data that I pulled from Kibana sample data flights with elevation. And then I could, I could say, okay, well, let's see what we have. I have carrier. I have flight number. And I'm going to put the destination airport. And then I'm going to put the elevation just to see. This is the kind of thing that I can do very, very quickly if I'm here. I can discard ESQL commands, put them somewhere else, copy them back, slice them and dice them. So I think we're on a good path, right? So now I have enriched. So this is data that I don't have in my flights, and without going anywhere else, I just said enrich my data. The data up to this point, which is a table with flights. I said, hey, can you please add from using. I think this will look something like a lookup in the U.S. airports and bring this kind of like a join. But we can still do it right now with enrich, which is kind of like a join, okay? And then just bring down elevation and feed, because I want to do an analysis of how much influence does the elevation have over the average price per mile. So let's put back our computation. So we said price per mile. I'm in a different cluster. That's why you don't see it here. And the other cluster, the only reason I was not using the demo one is because I'm not allowed to create my ingest for my U.S. airports data set and my my enrichment policy. They would let me do that if I had a friend with the demo team, then I would have stayed in that environment for the whole time. So we said that this one was very simply average ticket price. I don't really know why the autocomplete doesn't find that. But it is here, and I think we'll be good to go with that computation, which is not any Java programming. And now this one says, well, I don't even know what you mean by average ticket price in that. So if you're very observant, you know that I took those fields out with the keep, right? So now if I want to use them downstream, well, I need to kind of put them back. So I need to put my distance in miles back, and then my average ticket price. And that's probably why the autocomplete did not find them, right? I mean, I can't ask for the impossible. All right, so now that I have all the data I need for the calculation, it should be good. So now I have everything. By the way, you can also use the keep to enforce the order of how the table is arranged. Okay, so now finally I have everything. I have elevation, I have price per mile. So now what I can do is just do another histogram, but this time what I want to do is I want to do a histogram on the average price per mile. Or I could use the maximum or the minimum, but with respect to elevation. I want to see if elevation has any impact on the price of a flight. Like if you go to Denver because it's high, then it's more costly to fly there. Okay, it's a question, and I want to know the answer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create the function. So this is going to be average PPM, which is going to be just the average of unit and equal, and I want the price per mile. Okay, and I can test it right now, but I'm just going to keep on going. And now I need to do a bucket. And the bucket is going to be on a field that doesn't even exist in the original data set. So now I can do a bucket on elevation. And in this case, it's not showing up for a reason that you will see in a minute. And I want to break the elevation into 1,000 mile ranges so that I can, create my nice looking histogram. So I'm going to, this is exactly what I want, but it's giving me an error. I'm going to run it because I don't think there should be an error. And it's going to probably disagree with me. And it says, no, I found a problem. It must be daytime or numeric. Well, elevation in feet is definitely numeric. Or maybe it's the 1,000 that needs to be a double. Actually, they both need to be double. So if you just fix one, it is not doing its own casting internally. It says, nope. The elevation actually is an integer field. That's the way it was retrieved. So you need to do a conversion. I don't think we should be needing to do this, but I am going to humor it. So this part I did not like. okay? Because the casting should be, I mean, if I have an integer and I put it in a placeholder for a double, I mean, why can't it just cast it for me as a personal favor? But it didn't do it. Okay, that's all I can say. It did not do that. But once I fixed the pickiness and I gave it two doubles, okay, which I had two numbers, and I cast them or made them be doubles, okay. I'm sure this will change at some point. Then it's giving me again the picture with the glitch, because even though the histogram is correct, if you can see here, there are the ranges in 1,000-mile increments. I don't know if you can see that, but I really want to see them graphically. So if I come here, you can see that the buckets, the elevation ranges, which I'm going to give a name to, are just being bunched up in the y-axis. This is a glitch. This is a bug, but it's been around, and I don't know why it hasn't been fixed. But that's really what I wanted to do, right? I mean, once a little bit of lens knowledge doesn't hurt. So there is my answer for this particular question that took me like 2 minutes to answer, right? By just chaining commands, get some flights, restrict the set. I do a little bit of enrichment, select the columns you want, do a few calculations, and then do a histogram. And I can do date histograms. I'm not going to show you that. And boom, and boom, and boom, and boom. And you can answer data questions without leaving home, which is discover. You can visualize. Yes, the visualization is still not quite the way we want it, but it will be that. That's why we're kind of releasing so quickly. One of the reasons that H15 is coming out so quickly is because we have advances in AI, Gen AI, that we want to release. And then we have tons of advances in ESQL that we want to release faster than normal. So in the past, people would say, you guys released too many times. Well, it's worse now because we have a lot to say, right? Gen AI and ESQL are things that are being very actively developed. So we want to make sure you have access to what, the latest things that we come up with. So let me go back to the slides and wrap this up. And then you can ask questions, and I'll tell you what other things to look at. And of course, this will be a video, and the slides will be available. All right, but let's summarize. Once we found out that there was a better way, we brought in ESQL, which is a table-oriented. So the data type in ESQL is the table. Then within the table, we have a rich data type set with numbers and strings and dates and IPs. And now we just added geo queries. So now you can do distance queries and range queries, I think. But anyway, the model is always table in, table out, unless it's a source command, which is the one that produces the table from the beginning. The idea is that you can do all the retrieval, filtering, processing, enrichment, aggregating. Oh, did I say enrichment? Parsing. I didn't show you parsing, but I will tell you how you can learn more about it. And then we did we just went, start by, where's the data set? Let me add the data set. Let's slice some columns out. Let's see what they look like. Let's do some sorting. Let's make sure that we understand that if you limit first and sort after is different from, if you sort first and then limit after. So basically, the commands are a sequence, and it matters the order in which you run them, right? So it is a sequential execution of the pipeline or the chain. And then back to the problem, we evaluated a field. This is a runtime field, but we're not going to call it that. We're just going to say it's just a new column in our table stream. And then we got to watch out for those pesky zero distance flights, which is just a where. All right, and then we can keep on keeping on. And then you can use the column as any other column. You can sort on it. You can query it, and you can say where the price per mile is greater than 10. We could have done that. It's, once you introduce a column using eval or stats, it's there for you to use any way you want. It's just another column on a table. So how it came, once you get to this sort, where that column came from the original data set, from an enrichment, it doesn't really matter. It's a column that reached the input to the sort. Okay, fine, good. I can live with that. And then you can find, you can use it to, you can do metrics like max and min. We have a very rich set of functions that you can use for your statistical pleasure. And then you can visualize. Anytime you want, just turn the chart back on in Discover, and then you can get a nice visual. You may have to tweak it, like some people like pie charts for some reason, for some use case, and bar charts for others, heat maps. We have a lot of things that we borrow from Lens. So you're not in Lens, you're in something we call, I think we still call it Lens Suggestions, which is at a subset of Lens, but will eventually be as rich as Lens, because this is where we need to work on the exploration and visualization, and then you collect them in a dashboard, and before you know it, the trace of everything you did in your exploration would be seen as panels on a dashboard. I don't have time to show you that much, but I will tell you. I will give you a link to where we do that. All right, then you can spot trends by doing histograms with the bucket function, and then metrics. So in this case, I would just want to see my distribution of flights over price per mile. And then I can add data. If you happen to have an enrichment policy lying around in a cluster, you can use it. And then you can use it to answer more questions now. Now we're using elevation that we didn't even think about. This one is not just not on the data set. You cannot even calculate it. I mean, you could argue, well, the average price or the price per mile is not in the data set, but I have the ingredients because I have the ticket price and I have the distance. So using my math skills, I know that I would divide and get the price per mile. This one is not even something I could calculate. I just don't know what the elevation is at JFK or Denver. I just don't know it. I don't have it. But I have a table on the side that somebody has processed to be an enrichment index. And ESQL knows how to use it. So all I had to go is rely on the autocomplete to find the policy. It says, well, what do you want to do? The join on destination airport. And then what do you want from it? The elevation. Okay, now so from this point on, the table that reaches this point has price per mile and elevation and whatever else you want to add to it. And they're just fields, they're just columns. Use them as if they came. In fact, you don't really know how they came about. And do you even care? No, we don't really care. And we don't need any programming. We don't need to know any painless. We don't need to know any painless context. And I don't need to know any JSON, and I don't need to use DSL, and I don't need to use DevTools. Maybe just my friend that did the enrichment policy one time, and then we're good. Life is good with ESQL. That's what people have been screaming to us about, and that's what now we have. All right, so next steps include, we have a class. We have a full day training. It's on demand, or you can just hire us for a private training. I don't know if we'll do this as a public training, but if you ask for it, we'll do it. But at a minimum, you have this on demand through a subscription. We might even add it as a SKU that you can buy it separately. And it's just one day training, 2 modules, where everything that I showed you today and a lot more, plus hands-on labs, okay, and an environment where you can practice that on for the duration of the on-demand class. You will get access to it. I'll just give you a quick preview of the labs in a minute. And then I put in the slides a bunch of references, including the link to the course. This is the link to the latest documentation. And then there's a few blogs that are really good. Now, if you are really, really interested in solving problems in a headless mode, and you really want the full power of DSL, and you know you want runtime fields, we have an on-demand class on that, and then I have another webinar presented to the community not that long ago on our solution for schema on read using the hairy, scary, painless runtime fields. And they're fun to use. I'm not going to deny it, but they don't belong in Discover, so that's why they're not there. And then let me just go back to the. I just wanted to quickly finish with a preview of the lab. So if you take our course, so you're gonna learn by doing. So there's a lot of like lectures and slides, but the most fun part is you're gonna like go through a lot of things with becoming a junior expert in conditions. You want to write the most advanced work conditions in the world with all sorts of things, and then you want to be an expert in aggregations, all the way up to histograms and buckets and date histograms and numerical histograms and so on. Or you want to do more advanced things like parsing with grok and dissect, or you want to do enrichment, or you want to learn, you want to just learn the workflow, which is all in Discover and visualize and save to your dashboard and keep on going. And then if you want to solve a real problem from a security, we actually borrowed from one of our security experts, James Spiteri. We borrowed one of his data sets for a malware explosion. And in this lab, the idea is to use ESQL to figure it out. Okay? Did we have a data breach? What does it all mean to us? Should I be worried about it? So we use ESQL to explore that. And then it says, yep, there were some problems. We go all the way to our CMAP, but we start with ESQL. We find what is the payload of the things that were involved in the data breach, if there was one. And by the way, there's another thing that I did not cover in this meetup, and that is, once you know that you did get hacked, okay, and you know where it's coming from, and you don't want to ever see them again without knowing, if the same pattern occurs, you can actually create an alert. So this class actually tells you how do you create an alert without leaving Discover again. In this case, you are in Discover and you say, hey, I need an alert, okay, because I don't want this to ever happen to me again. So we take you through the alerting, and it's fully configured, so you will get in fact, I think, we created a dummy attack, but just trying to replicate the high bytes scenario, and then you will get an alert over email. So this is our newest, funnest, not funnest, the GenAI class. All of our classes are fun. The ones I'm calling the funnest are the ones that I developed. I'm kidding. They're all really good. But our latest classes are this one and the GenAI one, which I want to also talk to you about. And let me go back here. And then just wrap up with this. So we have this class. By the way, everything here has a link. So the GenAI Esri training is the one that is the one that's the other one that is newer. And this one teaches you all about being a developer, RAG developer, where they are, the retrieval augmented generation, which is the biggest part, because this is what keeps the GenAI from hallucinating and keeping them, on top of your private data. That's the R. Well, Elasticsearch is the leader in being an R. Not only do we hold big data, but we can give it back to you in the most highest possible relevant mode, because we have tons of functionality for you to retrieve exactly what you're looking for before you even send it as a context for the GenAI to work with. So we are working hard on giving you the best possible content. So how did we do? Man, I did go outside my my allocated time. But anyway, so I'm done. All good.
Thank you so much, Enrique. That was amazing, as usual.
Thank you, Justin.
Just a funny little anecdote. I have my own talk that I've given a couple times now on building aggregations. It was part of my onboarding experience with Elastic, was the process of building aggregations over time. And I was so proud. I walked everybody through this very long, it was in DevTools, a very, very long JSON aggregation. I was like, look at this, it's all nested and everything. And you just blew it out of the water with 7 lines of ESQL.
Yeah. DSL is where you will find all the power of Elasticsearch, but not if you're an analyst. That's not where you want to be, right? So we listened, and then we did it.
Yeah, no, I really appreciated how you kind of like touched upon that pain point of like, you have a dev working the DSL on DevTools, and it's like, great. It's like, but can I just add this to the dashboard? And you're like, oh, well, that's a completely different thing. No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, that's a very real pain point that I discovered, starting my journey with Elastic. I'm sure everybody, at one point or another. So that was a really great presentation. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks again.
And I encourage everybody to take those trainings. They're very high quality. And again, I keep on saying this, I'm a little too busy, but I will be taking those trainings right with you, like the Ezra, that one looks really great. This is the things that I should be, preaching with everybody. So yeah, can't say great enough stuff. Just saw this. Hello, my name is En. ESQL has been very helpful for my customers that want a task completed for a query to build visualizations. I could copy ESQL code for them and they instantly have what they need. Fantastic. Otherwise, I would have to walk them through building it with Discover. Wow. Hello, my name is En. I think we should just probably print this out and email it and mail it to all the devs that have worked on it. This will make their day. That's fantastic.
So the slides will be available at, in the YouTube channel.
Yes. So this is recorded. This will be syndicated, and on YouTube, as usual, we'll have all of our all the relevant slides and documentation and links in our description. So cool. Thank you so much, Enrique, for again coming by and just sharing all that knowledge.
It's totally my pleasure.
Awesome. Well, everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll see you later.